Are you interested in the all-new Opel Corsa? Let's go! We start here with the all-electric version today because from the outside it doesn't look too different. You cannot really directly see that this one here is the Corsa E. You know, not the generation E, but E for electric. Usually that would be the Corsa F, you know, when you think of generations A, B, C, D, E, F and so on. But this one here, Corsa E for the electric then. You see the front grille just looks quite normal. The car itself has bigger stance on the road than the predecessor, just a little bit, but still remains with these very round shapes. It is on the same platform than the Peugeot 208. So they share this French platform called CMP. And that's also the reason the 208 also comes all electric, because then you can also use this new electric platform. Soon tell you more about that. 4 meters 06, 160 inches or 13'3" is the total length here of the new Corsa generation. That's just about 3 centimeters longer, so nothing really has changed much in length. But this roofline here is 4.8 centimeters lower, so it's massively lower than before. Of course, this really helps visually. It looks sleeker overall. Here also with the contrasting roof color here in black to this orange color. Then we have 17-inch wheels here, so also in a special electric trim. We know with less wind resistance, a little bit closed off, pretty interesting. And then again, rather round shapes here, a little bit of a dropping line right there over the door handles, some chrome frame in the lower part and this C shape right there, and quite thick C-pillar here at the rear part, so definitely looks more modern than before. And again, the biggest change is the Corsa before looked pretty much upright, a little bit van-alike in comparison to this one here. This one definitely is sleeker, smaller car. Big change also at the rear, where those headlamps are more horizontally drawn, also in a more dynamic shape, a little bit more sculptural and sportier this whole rear. And talking about the braking lights, well, the autonomous emergency brake is standard equipment. That's good, definitely. An option, you can get more assistance systems, a blind spot monitor, for example, or also an adaptive cruise control. So also massive technology upgrade. Then as for the assistance systems, we can expect it, of course, with new vehicles. Well, it looks a little bit like the normal combustion engine, but you can see here those orange high voltage cables indicate that this one here is the electric motor, and fitting also to the orange paint here today, definitely. The battery, you cannot see it here. This one here is the electric motor, which takes the power to the front wheels only. And the battery is placed in the lower part of the car, just in the bottom, to keep the center of gravity low and also centered. And it's a 50 kilowatt hour battery, promising a range of about 330 kilometers. Of course, taking a look in the driving test if this one will be true. And the power output here is around 140 horsepower, makes a sprint of 8 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour, which is again quite decent for such a small vehicle. Of course, recharging is always one of the main EV topics, and well, we have this dummy wall box here today, but let me tell you something about it. You recharge it right here on the left side, driver's side, and there's an 11 kilowatt AC charger and then a 100 kilowatt DC charger. And that's again pretty rare for a small vehicle, so I think pretty cool that they integrated that one, and that one, will work pretty fast then. And now to the combustion engine version of the new Corsa, and you can see from the exterior, you can see, actually nothing is different, so it could also be the electric version here, just in a different color. Then again, this chrome strip here inside the Opel logo, stronger lower bumper here because this one here is a sporty trim. Also we can see it on the interior, so pretty interesting. Also here this new Opel Compass, which has this design line which goes straight into this Opel logo in the front. Here in the side profile we can also see 17-inch wheels, but in contrast to the electric one, those ones here are rather open and sporty. This one here is the so-called GS-Line. Yeah, inspired by the GSI badging a little bit. Will it be a true GSI Corsa later on? We'll see about that. But GS-Line, you can see here more dark and sporty and so on, like mirror caps. And then there's no chrome frame in the lower part, but also black. But this is just, it's not really painted, it's just the rubber part. So a little bit cheap, but again, a sportier, darker look definitely to it. Which one would you prefer? The one you can see here, the GS-Line, or the electric one we've just seen outside? And the rear here of the combustion engine version in the GS-Line, you also have chrome exhaust tips. And yes, those ones are real exhaust, no fake exhaust here whatsoever. I think it's also a good move. So, other than that, this is a three-dimensional sculptural look definitely. I mean, you will lose some trunk space right here, but then, you have a more three-dimensional look here. But I think maybe a little bit waste here in the space you have here. But I really like those tail lamp design, looks pretty modern overall. So now to the combustion engines. What is very interesting, weight-wise, this low weight is just with this one here, with the combustion engine, so about 1,000 kilograms. The electric version about 1,500 because the battery is so heavy, definitely. So it's just light, really, when you have the combustion engine. But still, when you have the battery, center of gravity is lower, and so it might also be very agile to drive. We'll find out more about that later, definitely. Then here, all about 3 cylinders, definitely. This one here, 3-cylinder petrol engine, 1.2 liters, and the horsepower figures 75, 100, optional 8-speed auto gearbox, or 130, then always with the 8-speed auto gearbox, other than that manual gearbox. And there will also be a 4-cylinder diesel, 1.5 liter with 102 horsepower. Relatively high entry sill right here. Just turn the music down. So, and then, I mean, it's a small car segment, and I'm not the smallest person. And the question was also, I mean, the roofline is massively lower. What about my headroom? Well, it's actually no problem. I'm 1.86 or 6'1". There's massive amounts of headroom left. Well, why? They put the seat more than 2 centimeters lower, so that evens it out. And they are still, I wouldn't have expected so much headroom because the car looks way sleeker than the previous generation. Interior overview, we see a rather clean design here with the swing in the upper dashboard area. A lot of use of piano lacquer, don't like it that much, but let me already tell you, this one here is a hand-built prototype car, so if there are any issues with the build quality, it might be due to that. We'll have to see about that later in a later review then, but just to mention that too. Yeah, the steering wheel is what it makes most Opel in this car. Typical here from the controls, here right side for the music and stuff, or the volume. Yeah, this cheap rubber I would have seen, would have liked some other stuff on there. Not sure if it's different in the normal version than later on, but I guess not. This one here, the all digital instruments, here also connected to the electric car. And you can see the current speed. Then you also see at the background there is the GPS map, so that's pretty helpful. You have that one already included, and you also see the battery status. So I like this rather simple and clean atmosphere, the simple and clean touch. You do not have to learn this vehicle, and that's also the Opel philosophy. You get in the car, start driving, and that's it, and you don't care about anything else. So now let's get in the rear, and I still have the seat as I would be driving in the front. And my tip would be to put the seat a little bit higher. That's more comfortable for the front passengers and also better for the rear ones, because here, when you are, when you have a little bit longer legs than I do, you hit it here in the top part. It's soft, so it's okay, yes, but there's a gap in the lower end, and that would fit better to your knees when the seat here in the front would be a little bit higher. And I mean, it's a small car, it's not long, and then I think it's actually quite okay. When the seat is a little bit higher, then it would work actually quite well. So the trunk is now 25 liters larger than in the predecessor, so at about 310 liters, and you can see it right there. There is the loading sill as with most small and compact hatches, so that's it. And there's of course no battery in the trunk because, again, battery is placed in the middle center floor of the car. So square dimensions, I think quite well usable. So as I said, everything is pretty much the same, electric and the combustion engine car. It's more about the trim levels. And here the GS trim or GS-Line trim has those sport seats. Also beautiful fabric here in this red racing inspiration. And you can see the top part, there's a wider shoulder area and there's also more support, and the fabric itself is way stiffer than the other one. The other fabric is very soft in the cushion, and this one here pretty stiff. I'll also take a test seat pretty soon. This one of course looks racier, looks a little bit cooler, and you know, they make an impression that they are a little bit wider indeed, also if you're for example taller. But you have to be aware that the bolstering is really way stiffer. So if you like a lot of stiffer shoulder support in the upper area, then it's good for you. For me now, the first test, so the width of the seat suits me a little bit better. Then again, the softer bolstering of the other seat was, a little bit cozier. So it's a little bit pro and con to me. I'm not exactly sure yet. I think that really has to be decided on the long-term run when we also drive the car for a longer time, for example. Now when I get in the rear, here with the combustion engine car, again the seating height is no different. So, I can still put a hand over my head. And here it's also the same as for the legroom. Not sure if those sport seats get you a little bit less room, but again, it's more about how high you put the seat. So when you put it higher, again, the knees fit a little bit more in this, in this hole in the seat. But yeah, and just as a visual proof, here the trunk is also the same in the combustion engine version. The main thing about this new generation trunk is, by the way, here, the loading entry is 7.4 centimeters wider overall, so it will be easier to get things in and out. That's the main advantage now. Back to this car with our conclusion for the day with the all-new Opel or Vauxhall Corsa in this new generation here. Well, of course, the crucial change is that it's available all electric, and finally an electric vehicle that is affordable. That's the main thing to me about this vehicle. New generation in general, both combustion engine and electric. It's a very sleek design, a modern design. They still kept this round and friendly heritage of the Corsa generations. We've seen that earlier. But you did not lose too much headroom due to this lower roofline. That's okay. Yeah, you sit a little bit lower. So somewhat feels then also sporty on the inside, especially with those sportier, stiffer seats. The seating comfort, well, not so sure about that for taller people. For smaller people, won't be a problem. For taller people, yes, the segment in general. I always have more comfort in compact or even mid-size cars. That's no wonder, definitely. I will have to test it out on the long run, which seat form, the normal one or the sport seat, is more comfortable longer term. Build quality, yeah, those are prototype vehicles, so we have to see how it plays out later. But I wasn't too keen on the build quality here today. Everything looked a little bit cheap, definitely, as for the processing quality. But then again, still look at the price. When we see a car that is double in price, we say, oh, it's a great build quality. Maybe it doesn't help you because you cannot afford it. So always keep it in the perspective to the price. And again, the price for this vehicle, both combustion and electric vehicle, is really good. It's a very good package. LED also pretty cool. And then optional also the matrix LED, pretty special for this segment here, not to forget that. Then also low weight for the normal combustion engine cars. Of course, a little bit higher for the electric vehicle. But then again, has an advantage. It has this lower center of gravity that could play out to be a very agile driving. Brian already tested together with Michelle this car here in driving as a camo vehicle, not the electric one, but the combustion engine. So, and they were already telling us, or even you in the video, of course, that it was a quite sporty ride for a normal Corsa. So I think that's also what we can expect from this stiffer chassis, a little bit more evolved platform. So yes, from the inside especially, it's not that much Opel anymore. It is unmistakably, with this French influence now, Peugeot, Citroën, definitely. On the other hand, they, especially driving-wise, want to keep some more modifications for themselves. Opel at least told us, so we have to see how that one plays out. But then again, using the same platform brings also advantages. For example, that they can now already deliver it as an all-electric version. There's still some reasonable space on the inside. Again, the most important thing is when you have the seat all the way down, you would say there's hardly any legroom left. But when you put the seat a little bit higher in the front, then there's suddenly reasonable legroom also in the rear, and easier to access the trunk now if you compare it to the predecessor. So that's the conclusion here now so far. It was very interesting to me. Hope to you as well. Please also tune in next time. We'll also link some more other videos, video description also in the comments, which videos you could also check out. Also the Camo ride with Brian and Michelle. Please also subscribe again if you haven't done so far. Stick with us here. It's a great community. We share here all together. See you next time. Thank you.